Hello. I've not really done any videos on Gracie in a while. I think the last bodywork I did was this. Unfortunately, I've been a little busy at work, and then I've had an injury to my knee, so I've not been in the garage. So instead of doing the instead of doing the bodywork to Gracie, I've concentrated on the gearbox. As I said before, I've never done a gearbox before. Managed to put it all back together. For those who don't know, I think this is the first gear, which slides first, second, and I think it's third and fourth, or vice versa. But under here you've got like springs are in there, and there's little balls in there. I think you can just about see them on this. You can see the spring and the ball go in there, and then the gear cluster goes over the top, and then within that there's a little groove where the ball sits, and then it slides. So it will slide. So at the moment the ball is in one of the grooves, and then as you select gear, so your gear selector will go over the gear like that, and then as you pull it, it slides into the next gear. Getting these in, I had the main shaft in the vise. Tried to put a circlip around it, tie clip around it, and put the balls in. Struggled, and then the balls and the springs, they just pinged, and they went everywhere around the garage. So then somebody said they do a tool. Well, obviously, of course, they do a tool. So this tool works in such a way. There's these little cutouts. So you set your gear up on the bench. I'm not going to do it again. I had enough of a nightmare doing it. But basically, you set it up on the bench so it's flat, and then you basically put your ball and your spring in, and then you turn this, and that then brings the ball and spring into this lower part, thus compressing the ball and the spring. You then put your other gear on, press it home, and it's in. Dead easy to do, really simple. So if you are doing a gearbox, I'd invest in one of these tools. I did both of them in about 2 minutes, and I messed about with this one for probably 2 hours on my own, and lost springs and balls, etc. So yeah, get yourself one of these tools if you're going to be working on either a midget or a minor gearbox. This is a midget gearbox, but it's going in a minor car. But the Morris Minor is the same setup. So one of these tools, absolutely invaluable. So that's ready to go on. Then I then heated this bearing up in the oven about 15 minutes, and because this is the new type bearing, let me show you this. I may have already told you this, but the old bearing, as you can see, I'll see if I can get you can just see the center of the bearing. Come on, focus up. The center of the bearing protrudes just slightly, as does the top, whereas the new bearings don't. So it comes with a washer that you have to put behind it to keep that gap there, and then obviously your washer goes on with your distance tube, etc. That washer goes on, then your distance tube and your speedo, and it builds all the way up your speedo drive. Sorry. So yeah, just heated that up. It just drops straight on. The other part of the gearbox is the input shaft. Again, this was the same thing. The bearing was heated up in the oven, and again that just drops straight on. That whole system now, that whole shaft will have to go in the freezer for about an hour or so, because then it has to be dropped through that hole in the center. So that the second hole in the casing down there will have to be heated up to just about hot enough that you can just leave your hand on it for slightly, so it doesn't have to be red hot. Obviously you don't want it too hot because it's aluminium, so just heat that second one up, and then you get the shaft out of your freezer, and because it's frozen, it's contracted, because that's hot, it's expanded, and it slides through, and then you just leave enough to get the clip on, and then if you can do it quick enough, you'll be able to get the clip on and then tap it back in. But if not, it still just taps back in to the housing. So that will be that. That's all ready to go, so I may have a go at that tomorrow. But putting parts in the oven and in the freezer has to be done when the boss is not around. She caught me the other day, so yeah. Anyway, so that's where we're up to with that. In other news, this is the reverse idler for the gearbox. I've put a new bush in this, so I pressed the bush in, but obviously it needed to be reamed. So I took it to a local engineering company, and they've just reamed that out nicely. So that just runs along there beautifully. No play in it, no noise, no nothing. So they did that. Whilst that was there, then they just turned me up this little brass washer. I think I may have said before, this is the first gear. I think it actually goes on the other way. Well, this is the first gear, and when you select first, that slides forward, and sometimes this ball or this gear overshoots and the balls come out. Sometimes they get locked in gear, and you'll hear stories of these boxes being locked in first gear, and the simple reason is that this shaft is allowed to move too far forward in the casing. So you can see where that mark is there, that's normally where it would do, but yeah, this little 2mm spacer stops it from, that hits the casing, so it stops the gear from going too far forward, so it leaves the balls in place. So yeah, so whilst I was there, they just mocked that up for me, so that's ready to go on. Yeah, so that's the gearbox. I think everything is just about ready to go in. It's just a case of making sure I've got all the spacers and stuff. As you can see, I've got them all there. It looks all haphazard, but I know roughly where everything is, so we're good to go with that. I've also did a little bit of buy-in of some stuff. Apparently this is quite well known, but I didn't know it. The Owen Burton Services, which is a company from back in the 80s and 90s, they did a suspension kit, which is like a telescopic front suspension kit. So it's unfortunately this paper's got wet in the garage and I was doing some washing. So yeah, basically it does away with the old suspension unit, and you get a telescopic unit which clamps onto the bottom tie rod, and then bolts onto the standard fitting at the top. So it's going to give me telescopic suspension for the front of Gracie. Whilst I was there, I picked up an anti-roll bar, so that's going to help on the front. Like I say, well, I'll come round to it and show how they go together. But yeah, and I've also got this one down here, which is you have to excuse the mess, which is the rear kit. Now I've heard different stories about this, whether they're good or bad. I'll try it, see how we go on, and take it from there. But yeah, so that's basically where we're up to at the moment. We're still on with the gearbox, and I'm itching to get back and do some bodywork. I really am. So yeah, as soon as this box is made back up, I'll put it away, and then get back onto the gearbox. Oh, just incidentally, this is another job that I have to do before I build the gearbox back up. This is the plate that sits in the bell housing. So this is your your lever for your thrust release bearing, your thrust lever, but in here this sits onto the main shaft, onto the input shaft like that. But the only seal, if you can see in there, it's like a scroll seal in the aluminium. So what's supposed to happen is, as it turns round, the oil, it's the opposite way, so the oil is supposed to run back in there, but it's they are prone to leaking. So what's going to happen is that's going to be machined, the top of that is going to be machined off, and then put like the old neoprene seals, such as that seal in there, similar to that anyway. That just gets pressed into there, and then that's a nice tight seal then on the input shaft, and hopefully keep it oil tight. But yeah, you can buy, I think you can buy these, but they're about 75-80 quid. The seal itself is about £2, and I can't see the engineering company charging me 80 quid for it, so we'll give that a go. Yeah, that's about it. Everything else is ready to go. There's a couple of new shafts there to go in, and bearings, etc. But yeah, I'm looking forward to putting it all together. So yeah, a quick update, but I've not really done a great deal. So yeah, we will get back onto it. I'm looking forward to it. Okay then, cheers, thanks, bye.